All right, good evening and welcome to TV47's Wicked Edition. My name is Linda Alela. So Kenyans await to hear what Vietnam will say as to the case of Margaret, and we are eagerly waiting to hear what has happened so far. The silence, they say, is deafening. Equally, Kenyans continue to ponder on the words of S.K. Macharia yesterday, as of course he highlighted the numerous cases that play out in the country as to the question of the political season as well. Kenyans continue to ask what is of the broad-based government and of course the handshake between the Right Honorable Raila Odinga and President William Ruto as the president traverses the different parts of the country, and mostly Nairobi. We have witnessed just how mugging has played out, and we ask, have we sunk that low? As well, tomorrow, Meru Deputy Governor will be sworn in as the governor. Will current governor, if you want to call her, or perhaps the previous governor, going to go and challenge this in court? We eagerly will be following up on that as well to give you the updates. And of course, those are some of the things that we pondered on this evening. That is on the political chess game. We want you to be part of the conversation. As always, the hashtag is TV47 Weekend Edition. I'll be looking at some of your comments. What do you make of the political situation in the country? There's so much more to that, and I have a beautiful panel that I'll be introducing shortly that will help us decipher on all this and much more. We welcome you to the Wicked Edition. With me, Linda Alela, I'll be assisted by my sign language interpreter on the other end, that is Catherine Simaloi. But of importance, we must look at what is happening as to news, and here are the highlights.
Tonight, government in talks over the execution of Kenyan Margaret Nduta in Vietnam. Her family is only hopeful she will be saved.
Akamwambia apelekee mama mwingine na akirudi ampatie kitu amrudishie.
Also tonight, Gachagua Kalonzo Sakaja barred from addressing a congregation at the Anglican church.
And if they so wish to speak to the congregants, it will be done outside of the sanctuary. And not only today, but in all our dioceses.
The church says no politics on the pulpit. And Meru is ready for a new bourse. Preparations on high gear for the swearing in of Meru Deputy Governor tomorrow morning. Pastor arrested over sexual abuse cases after days on the run.
Suspect was today arrested at his residential home in Ruiru by officers under this command and will be arraigned in court tomorrow.
His church, the Christ Impact Church in Meru, was raided by Kenyans a few weeks ago.
All right, and we go straight to the broadcast. A preacher was on Sunday arrested over allegations of sodomy. Prophet Peter Kimondo of Christ Impact Church was arrested following a report that he sodomized a Nakuru resident in May 2022. Nakuru East Deputy Sub-County Police Commander Sheila Kegode said that Kimondo, 41 years old, said that the police raided the suspect's residential home in Ruiru, Nairobi County, as Chichi Josephine tells us.
Weeks after Irate residents and tens of members of the public gathered outside Christ Impact Church in Ruiru, threatening to destroy the building if the pastor in question failed to appear to answer questions on allegations of sodomy, the pastor has finally been arrested, the arrest coming days after he went on the run. The preacher, Prophet Peter Kimondo of Christ Impact Church, was on Sunday arrested over allegations of sodomy, following a report that he sodomized a Nakuru residents in May 2022.
We received information through media that there was a prophet who had committed an offense of rape. We followed up the matter through our books, and we found that we had a report that was reported here in May 2022.
Nakuru East Deputy Sub-County Police Commander Sheila Kegode said that Kimondo, 41 years, was arrested after police raided the suspect's residential home in Ruiru, Nairobi County, and will be charged with rape and indecent acts.
The suspect was today arrested at his residential home in Ruiru by officers under this command and will be arraigned in court tomorrow to face charges of rape and indecent act.
According to Kegode, Kimondo was arrested alongside James Kang'ethe, whom they were found together in Nairobi, and will be turned to a state witness and will not face any charges. Chichi, Josephine, TV47.
And now, former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua, Wiper leader Kalonzo Musyoka, and Nairobi Governor Johnson Sakaja were today denied an opportunity to address congregants at the Anglican Church. This coming after the Anglican Church Archbishop, that is Jackson Ole Sapit, announced a ban for politicians to speak at the church pulpit. In another declaration, Sapit announced that amounts given as offering will not be announced in any Anglican church across the country, as Sheila Chelangat details.
Welcome you, our Father in God, Bishop.
For weeks, the pulpit in the country has been the platform for weaving political rhetoric in a bid to reclaim the sanctuary from the tempests of politics. Anglican Archbishop Jackson Ole Sapit has banned politicians from across the political divide from the Anglican church pulpit.
From today on henceforth, in any Anglican congregation, and I thank God my bishops are here, there will be no opportunity for any political leader to have a speech in the church.
Sapit was speaking during the consecration of the third bishop of SEK Nairobi Diocese, Jonathan Kabiru, in Makadara today. And politicians in attendance were not spared.
We will mention their names, they will wave their hands, and if they so wish to speak to the congregants, it will be done outside of the sanctuary. And not only today, but in all our dioceses and in all our churches.
Former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua, Wiper Party leader Kalonzo Musyoka, Nairobi Governor Johnson Sakaja, amongst others, were only recognized and asked to stand and wave to congregants.
Gachagua is with us. We have the governor of Nairobi City County, His Excellency Sakaja is with us. Asante sana.
Also, Sapit has announced that offerings will no longer be publicly disclosed in any Anglican church across the country.
Giving in the Anglican church will not be announced. Just give as God directs you to give. For what we give to God, we don't have to tell human beings what we have given him.
This coming in the wake of public outrage over the transparency of donations made to the church. Sheila Chelangat, Runinga ya TV47.
All right, thank you, Sheila, for that update. Now, unlike Sunday last week, when TRM roundabout along Thika Road superhighway witnessed chaos, police officers exchanging moments with a section of youth. Well, today things were different, even though anti-riot police officers were manning the region. A spot check by TV47 highlighted that Bishop Edward Mwai, for the second week running, completed his Sunday service earlier than the usual time in what a section of congregants said was pressure from protesters who had threatened to occupy the church. Mike Agungo with that report.
Sunday, 9th March 2025 at the famous Roy Sambu roundabout. Anti-riot police officers had a rough time calming irate youth who protested against President William Ruto's 20 million donation to Jesus Winner Ministry, terming it as misplaced priorities. But 1 week later, the youth who had taken it to social media claiming to maintain the same pace were a no-show. Business continued uninterrupted thanks to men in uniform who made sure there were no chaos. But the Sunday service had been ended earlier than usual. Congregants said Bishop Edward Mwai purposely executed this to provide them with ample time to leave the premises, after the protesters had threatened to repeat the cycle.
Tumemaliza everything imefanyika church. Mahubiri imeenda vizuri, watu wameomba, watu wameimba vizuri. Chenye imefanya ni eti pastor hajapeana huduma juu hata yeye bado unajua alikuwa kwa zile harakati za pressure pia. Unajua majenzi walikuwa pia wameweka kila mtu pressure. Hata mimi tulikuwa, lakini pia mimi nimeongea na majenzi wengi sana nikawaambia tuache hizi tabia za kusema mambo za kanisa, occupy church. Nimeongea sana online, tumeongea na wao hata wenye walikuwa wanakuja juu bado ni marafiki zangu. So tumeongea nao nikawaambia waache tu focus na zile vitu za maana, zile vitu zinaleta faida kwa maisha yetu, si vitu za vita.
With the hashtag Occupy Jesus Winner on X, the protesters last Sunday had mobilized and charged that President William Ruto's administration was misusing public funds in the face of economic distress.
Ati sijuyo ni alikuja kaombe, sio ati kuombea nini, hapana, wanakuanga urafiki. But yeye alikuja kaleta pesa hapa na si ati sawizi, watu waache suki ati kumchukia ati ni za kuimba, tena hata akiimba. Kwani yeye si tajiri?
Efforts to talk to the bishop proved futile after he was unwilling to engage members of the press. Mike Kagwango, TV47, Nairobi.
Now, in the last-minute intervention, that is, Kenya's Foreign Affairs Principal Secretary Korir Sing'oei says that efforts are being made to save the life of Margaret Nduta Macharia, a Kenyan national facing execution in Vietnam. Nduta, convicted of drug trafficking, is said to be executed after the appeal deadline lapsed on March the 12th. This marks the government's first official response to mounting calls for action in saving the 37-year-old woman from Murang'a County, as Moige William details.
Margaret Nduta, a 37-year-old woman sentenced to death in Vietnam for smuggling 2 kilos of cocaine, has triggered an outpouring of appeals. President William Ruto urged to immediately intervene in the matter by requesting clemency or repatriation. However, with only hours remaining, Nduta's fate hangs by a thread. Kenya, through the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, has made its first official effort to save Nduta, according to the Foreign Affairs Principal Secretary Korir Sing'oei, stating that despite Nduta's case being complex and difficult, the government is doing everything within its disposal to secure reprieve for her. The PS also says that he spoke to the authorities in Vietnam over the matter, assuring that the matter will be resolved. Korir says he conveyed to the authorities in Vietnam about the anxiety of the Kenyan people on the impending execution of Nduta and reiterated the request for a stay of execution to allow the two countries to find a path in resolving the issue. Vietnam, infamous for its unforgiving drug laws, enforces the death penalty for trafficking more than 600 grams of heroin or cocaine, often carrying out executions swiftly and in secrecy. Nairobi, despite lacking diplomatic representation in Vietnam, is working through open channels, though the odds remain slim. For Margaret's family, the struggles are with grief and confusion. According to them, Nduta, traveling for the first time out of Kenya, had switched her luggage at the advice of an agent, unaware it was loaded with over 2 kilograms of hard drugs. Her arrest in Ho Chi Minh City in July 2023 shattered her dream of reaching Laos, her intended destination.
Huyo mzigo alipatikana nayo, alipeo ni Joroge, akamwambia apelekee mama mwingine na akirudi ampatie kitu amrudishie.
Tragically, the emotional toll of the news has already claimed the life of the family's grandmother.
Mniletee huyo msichana huku, alafu mkitaka kumfuga mumfugie huku.
Margaret's case is not an isolated one. In December 2024, a Kenyan man was arrested at Chennai International Airport in India for smuggling cocaine worth 215 million shillings. He faces charges under India's strict anti-narcotic laws, which could lead to the death penalty. Similarly, a Kenyan woman was arrested at Hamad International Airport in Doha for smuggling cocaine hidden in her shoes. While her exact sentence remains unclear, Qatar's law on drug trafficking are notoriously harsh, often resulting in severe penalties. These cases highlighting the growing trend of Kenyans being lured into international drug trafficking rings, often under the guise of lucrative job offers. Southeast Asia, in particular, has become a high-risk region for such crimes. As the clock ticks down for Margaret Nduta, the Kenyan government remains hopeful, but time is undeniably running out. Moige William, TV47.
All right, thank you, Mwege, for that. We'll also get the view of the panelists on the same later on. Of course, we're expecting international relations Professor Macharia Munene, who probably would be able to help us articulate that better, or perhaps unpack it better alongside the other guests. Now, Kenyans have joined hands with the family of Margaret Nduta for her to be repatriated back to the country and be tried within the Kenyan laws over her crimes. The Kenyan citizen is facing death penalty in Vietnam after she was convicted for smuggling kilograms of cocaine in Vietnam. She is to be executed. And of course, these Kenyans have called on the government to hurry their talks with Vietnam, as of course highlighted on our previous story.
Ilikuanga mara yake ya kwanza kwenda, na unajua mtu akienda safari atoke hapa aende safari ambapo haezi jua ama nchi yenye hajui, kuna yale taratibu yenye anafaa kufuatia the routes naye hajui. So hatuna uhakika kama hiyo ndio njia yenye inatumikanga kwa wale the innocent souls, those who are taking their first flight, na diposa tunaomba serikali igiria kati na mtuletee huyo msichana wetu.
Makosa akipatikana makosa anaweza letwa hapa nchini ahukumiwe huko, yani afungiwe huko, asinyongwe huko.
Okay, preparations for the swearing-in ceremony of Meru's Deputy Governor Isaac Mutuma as the fourth governor are complete at Mwendandutu grounds. And of course, meanwhile, a resident and activist, Michael Macarena, has written to the Chief Justice requesting that no judge should be assigned to oversee the ceremony, terming the swearing-in as illegal. Andrin Kilemi with the details of that.
Preparations for the swearing-in of Meru's fourth governor are in the final stages, with the ceremony expected to take place Monday at Mwendanto Grounds, Meru County. Deputy Governor Isaac Mutuma will take over after the impeachment of Governor Kawira Mwangaza was upheld by the High Court. On Sunday, the preparations were completed, with the County Secretary Kiambi Atheru confirming all arrangements are complete and final touches underway.
We are prepared. Tunawakaribisha, tuko na capacity ya kutosha ya kuwa host hapa kesho, tuko na tents za kutosha, kila kitu iko hapa ya kutosha, na security hapa iko tight hapo kesho, na kwa hivyo tunakaribisha watu wote, na hapa kutakuwa free kesho, furaha, kuimba, tuweze kuswea hii gavana wetu, tuweze kumpeleka kwa ofisi ili kutoka Jumanne, kwa sababu kuna kibarua kikubwa sana. For the last 2 years Meru imekuwa very divided. His first responsibility is to see how we can unite the people of Meru and also to unite the leadership.
Meanwhile, activist Michael Macarena, a staunch supporter of the ousted Governor Kawira Mwangaza, has petitioned Chief Justice Martha Koome, urging her not to appoint a judge to oversee the swearing-in of Isaac Mutuma, who served as the deputy governor. His petition follows a government gazette notice dated March 14th, officially announcing that the swearing-in ceremony would take place on Monday, March 17th at Mwendanto Grounds in Meru County. If Deputy Governor Isaac Mutuma Nto Ethinyia is sworn in Monday, he will officially succeed Kawira Mwangaza, becoming the fourth governor of Meru County, a county that has faced political turmoil since the 2022 general election. Andrin Kilemi, TV47.
And Andrin Kilemi, who hails from this region, reminds me that is Mwendanto ground. Interesting. We'll be following up on the proceedings to keep you posted. And road safety lobbyists in Nakuru County have called on the government to disband the National Transport and Safety Authority (NTSA) management, accusing them for incompetence, highlighting that in less than 3 months, more than 30 people lost their lives at the same spot along the Nakuru-Eldoret Highway. Anastasia Mukabi with more details of that.
Following the increased cases of road accidents along the busy Nairobi-Nakuru at the Salga Stretch Miga area, a section of road safety lobbyists in Nakuru County pointed out that they blame the road contractors, and they have also accused NTSA and Kenha for negligence, appealing for the disbandment of the NTSA management.
This lorry never went for inspection. This lorry just sent money, and it was given an okay.
Hizi za lori zisipopelekwa inspection, hizi janga tutaziona leo, kesho na kesho kutwa.
along this road. More than 30 lives have been claimed in the last 3 months, while others are still nursing their injuries, the latest being last week when a trailer hit a matatu, killing all its occupants.
Inspectors lazima waajibike. Hizi lori zitamaliza watu wetu. Pahali popote ajali inapatikana, ni lazima lori iwe involved.
4 accidents. I've seen there's a coast bus here, there's a nuclear here, now there is this catastrophe here.
As they assessed the road, they noted that the road where the accident occurred is narrow and sandwiched between a concrete wall and a huge gully, suggesting that the government should fill the gully with rocks, smoothen the surface, and widen the road as a permanent solution to curb road carnage at Salgar. Anastasia Kabi, TV47.
Thank you for that. Of course, it is now time that we take some good break. We still have so much coming up.
Also coming up, the political chess game is on. We look at the week that was in the world of politics after the break.
Our world is changing every day, and so should we, for the better. Each week, we tackle the big why, the question that should be on everyone's mind. Why isn't this fixed yet? Deforestation, global warming, and the adverse effects of climate change. The future isn't just something that we inherit, it's something that we create. Join us on The Green Fix as we tell the stories of those who refuse to give up. When it comes to fixing the planet, there is no time to waste. Join me, Shiksha Arora, on Thursdays at 9 p.m. on The Green Fix as we look into the big why, you and I.
For comprehensive information and education on your health, Body Garage is here.
Don't allow anyone to pluck out your good tooth, as long as it is strong and stable.
Cancer doesn't start today and you get the symptoms tomorrow. By the time you pick it or the time it is manifesting in you, probably will be there about 5 to 10 years.
The eye is the window to the rest of the body.
Don't forget to stay hydrated.
And of course, you at home do take your water.
So the ultimate test is actually you check your urine. Your urine should be clear.
Clear like the water?
Yes. Should be able to see the other side of the urine. If your urine is colored or has changed color, you cannot see the other side, then you have not taken enough water.
Don't forget regular health checkups. Early detection saves lives.
I want the message be, we can prevent cervical cancer. We prevent cervical cancer in several ways. You have young girls and even somebody who's above that age, you can pay at least every 3 years. Somebody should have a pap smear done.
If you are 40, 45, 50 going upwards, once a year, please go see a doctor. Yeah, it's just for normal routine maintenance. normal routine maintenance.
All right, welcome back to the broadcast. It is now time for the political chess game, and the gentleman who will help us play the chess, I don't know whether they are active players of chess by any chance, they'll be telling us you can only and only be part of this conversation if you understand how to be on the chessboard. So if one of them is not so good on chess, I think I will I will release them. But all the same, I am happy to have them this evening. Agostino Neto, it's an honor to have you after a very long time, the co-leader UGM Party, United Green Movement. Asante sana for creating time. How have you been?
Thank you very much, and I'm happy.
I had to.
I'm happy you honored the Greens by having a green jersey.
This was actually by design, because also, Kosonei, this one of yours is a tongue twister, Kiptuya, is also a member of Kijani Kibichi. Kijani Kibichi, basically, it's about green, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, thanks. So it's going to be a green evening.
It's going to be a green evening. What I don't know is whether Professor Macharia Munene will be here greening as well, but all the same, I know that he's also been a champion of the environment, and therefore green, whether it's politics or green, whether it's environment, it's a green evening.
Yeah.
But not so green in the country, looking at how the situation is. I don't know what you make of basically what has been happening. First of all, Agostino, it's long since I had you on set. Politics, imekuwa politics.
So first of all, receive greetings from members of the United Green Movement Party across the country.
Greetings received.
The Greens told me that, I mean, I've not been on set for like 2.5 years. It's been very deliberate.
Right.
We've been growing the party. We've spent time moving across the country, trying to build various units because, like you said, the politics that's happening in Kenya requires a different sort of strategy. And as Greens, we think we need to work the ground, we need to build our systems, we need to build the various institutions across the country. The Kenyan political landscape has been very annoying, and I saw one of my former colleagues, Meru going full throttle on against the broad-based, whatever it is, I do not know. I mean, she's a member, I think, of the UDA party, MP for Teso North, and was in a constituency, and she's saying how, you know, if at all it's going to be possible to have handshakes after every election, then why do you have those elections in the first place? You know, why do you take the country through craziness? You know, some 2-3 months of nothing is going on, must go, and then in a few days, must go is clean. So I really think we need to give ethics to our politics. We need to sanitize our politics. Politics needs to be based on the basis of ideology, and that's why as Greens, we really think that the next election, 2027, Greens need to take over power in a way that can then drive Kenya into ideological politics.
We don't have an IBC just yet. We understand, well, the constitutional provisions as to when or how soon we need to have a commission, and we need to have them, you know, rolling. We have seen that there are still constituencies that don't have representatives. We have wards that don't have representatives, and we still have politicians that angle and are looking forward to, you know, get into the helm. Then you ask yourself, do you suppose that these politicians like the Green United Movement, of course, you know, like the member of Kijani Kibichi here, do you suppose that you are confident about 2027, if at all you're going to look at the kind of troubles that we continue to have as to the formation of the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission?
I look at it half glass full or empty. I want to celebrate the half full. At least we have the panel constituted already. Right. So that is a step. But first, let me introduce myself. Thanks, Linda, for having me.
It's a pleasure.
It's the first time I'm coming to this studio. It's a beautiful one.
Karibu sana.
Yes, and it's an honor to be with my senior, Mheshimiwa. I've always looked forward to sharing the stage with you.
Humble.
So mine is, so a few years ago, not really a few years ago, many years ago, we called Nairobi City the green city under the sun. And it's not so green, just like as you're saying about our politics. But I want the green city under the sun to be bigger than just Nairobi County.
Okay.
I want...
The president is on a mission of making that happen. I don't know whether you have seen that. Unfortunately, again, when he goes to some place, tags will always follow on it.
Talking about the president.
Yes.
I tried joining him in one of his tours of the city.
The recent tour?
Yes, in Madaraka. Yes. I was welcoming him to my constituency. I called Langata home, and I thought being a good neighbor of the president, because he stays across Kilimani in State House, I went to welcome him. Right. But I couldn't get to him because I don't know if you can allow me to say this.
Yes, please.
So I tried getting to Madaraka Tibet. These boys come to me. They call themselves, I don't know, security for hire. But I didn't know they were for hire. I thought they were loving me, and I extended the love back. So when I'm almost getting to where the president is, they tell me Sababisha.
They said Sababisha.
Sababisha. Tenga kumi tu.
Okay.
Yes.
Wait a minute.
They escort me just less than 50 meters. Yes. Kusababisha.
Wow.
That is Sheng for toa kitu kidogo.
Are you convinced that this were, like state security?
No.
It's just
I'll say this. They were just hungry Kenyans, and hungry people tend to be angry.
Okay.
So we need to reduce the hunger in Kenya. We need to, as he says it, sanitize our politics. Why are we having this level of employment? On a weekday, a president goes around our many constituencies in Nairobi. And you find so many idle, not just young men, even middle-aged men and women. We have a crisis, but I think Nairobi as a paradigm, as a microcosm of Kenya, it's crazy. So
I am curious. Number one, why did you want to get to the president? Number two, did you get to the president Kiroho Safi, or you got to the president after kusababisha?
Actually, I was disappointed. So when these boys wanted, let me not quote the amount that they wanted, but they wanted some amount, of which, as a President Mwai Kibaki disciple, I couldn't sababisha.
Okay.
I believe you have to work hard for anything that you get, but also I understand where they're coming from. They're coming from a level of unemployment. There's a bit of hopelessness. But it's something deeper. I don't entirely judge them. We have let down our young men and women.
And I'm curious to hear what Sini has to say as to that. I mean, we have let down our. Does it justify?
So first of all, one of the main pillars of the United Green Movement Party manifesto is youth unemployment. Yeah. And as Greens, we appreciate that youth unemployment constitutes about 65%, 70% of young Kenyans are willing to find work. They've gone to school and they've not been able to find work. It's horrifying, and I'm like what he said. The president took a tour of Nairobi on a weekday for 4 or 5 days, and he was thronged in literally all those places with young men and women unemployed. It simply means they have nothing to do. That should worry any president. I mean, governments are put in place to give people dignity and senses of liberty and senses of freedom. To be happy that you have thousands of young people and moving around with you, cheering you on a weekday should be cause for worry. But I think what is more heartening is the number of Kenyans who are going around their business, who found themselves in the middle of this. I mean, there were motorists who were attacked. There were people who were doing business who had their businesses robbed. All this is happening because the president is taking a tour across the country or trying to do something. I think it's really, really sad. So for us as Greens, we really think that, the country needs to reorient itself. Our young people need to be given work. Our young people need to be skilled. during Uhuru Kenyatta's presidency, we saw young people doing, I think it was Kazi Mtaani.
Kazi Mtaani.
You know, civil works like that keep young people, you know, on short-term basis for purposes of at least getting an income, which some of them, of course, then move towards, you know, reinvesting in terms of small businesses. At least you have a basic income for like a few days of the week. But talking about youth unemployment, let me say something good about the Murang'a governor. You know, I had a chance to be in Murang'a last Sunday, and you know, my former colleague at the House of Parliament, Iringo Kang'ata of Murang'a, is doing something that's amazing. I mean, what has he done? He's putting young people into employment to do green work, you know, environmental restoration work.
Yeah.
He's also giving them, you know, basic incomes to do technical training. He's taking them to technical training institutions where people are learning skills, you know, hairdressing, plumbing, masonry, skills that, you know, after a few days will go. And I think that's what the president should be doing, as opposed to running around making chapatis and you know, making young boys and girls run over themselves. I really think it's disappointing that we really should hallow that.
Chapati is food. I mean,
the chapatis are good.
Chapati is food, but anywho, here we come and we ask, and I like that you bring in the perspective of what is happening in Murang'a, because then we want to ask ourselves just how strong, you know, devolution is a unit towards addressing some of the concerns that we continue to witness as a country. And speaking of which, we know that, of course, the deputy governor of Meru will be sworn in tomorrow as the governor, of course, of Meru. And the question then would be, what do you make of the occurrences in Meru? But before that, what is the role of devolution in helping to address some of these concerns that are outright? Because if Murang'a is going to do it right and the rest of the country is not doing it right, then what?
I'll jump to Meru, but I'll still bring us to Nairobi. I think I'm really trying to use clean language.
Is it that bad?
You see, we've had these shenanigans in Meru back and forth.
Yeah.
I have not studied who is right or who is wrong, but I hope the swearing in goes as is planned.
Okay.
You know why?
Yes.
So that we have this thing behind us.
Right.
Kawira, if you can listen to me right now, Mama.
Don't go challenge that.
Please don't go to the Court of Appeal. We need a break. When one part of the country is hurting, we are all hurting. I don't know what those MCAs did or did not do, or what the governor did or did not do, but we need to get this behind us.
Right.
So let me bring in the large aspect of devolution. We've had some relatively success stories about devolution, like my lecturer, Professor Kivuda Kibwana. I think we had those cases, those episodes of, you know, he said disband the government of Makueni. Yes. So I think we need to strengthen the laws governing county government so that we do not have year in, year out the MCAs blackmailing the governors. And this one I can tell you for sure, because I've followed some county assemblies. There is a lot of blackmailing of the executive that if you don't give me this, we will impeach you.
Right.
So there was a bill by, I think, a governor. They wanted devolution, impeachment not to happen in the first term. But the big idea is do not steal. Do not steal.
Right.
You've been given to serve, let us serve. And we have had stellar people in this country to look up to. I think I will mention Mwai Kibaki for the second time.
Okay.
President Mwai Kibaki served this country as a member of parliament for 50 years and is a relatively rich man, or rather a rich man. But we do not hear people complaining about the richness of Mwai Kibaki. I think it is very much possible to do business and be rich and be a politician without stealing.
They say that if we're going to overlook all his, years as a member of parliament and focus much on the presidency, which benefited the country at large, they say this happened well during the Grand Coalition government, and perhaps that's the reason why we probably would need the Honorable Raila Odinga joining in every other government so that it streams on well. I come back to you as to the question of devolution and what role it plays, also as you react to that. Because I see you want to react.
No, let's stick with devolution first. I really think that there's one or two counties across Kenya that are working. And I said this in Murang'a last weekend, and I think if you see what the governor has done with the healthcare system is working. I was there with Governor Nyang' Nyong'o and the governor for Kirinyaga when they came in for a learning tour. The governor has a mobile dialysis machine that is moving across the villages. I mean, that's a plus. The other thing that he's doing, which is an okay thing right now, is buying agricultural produce from the farmers. You know, he's buying mangoes, he's buying milk, he's buying vegetables from the farmers as a county, and then, you know, making sure that the farmers have capital. So I really think that it's possible for counties to work. You notice that most of what is called development in the Kenyan Constitution are devolved. Issues to do with health, issues to do with agriculture, issues to do with basic stuff. Water, for example, those are devolved functions of county governments. So to the extent that our county governments are dysfunctional, then of course we feel the heat. I mean, it's a shame that sometimes the national government wants to keep so much money across, but with devolved units, and I really think one of the things that we're thinking as Greens is to advocate for conditional granting of counties in a way that then they can exploit natural resources where they have comparative advantage. You know, if you see, for example, blue economy around Lamu, if you see agricultural produce around the Rift Valley area, then you'll be having counties spurring economic growth in a way that works. But right now, most of our county governors are engaged in primitive accumulation. They are living in largesse. You know, they have county staff who are incompetent. They have nepotism is the highest grandeur. By the way, but just before I forget, you know, Meru has been a particular shame. I think the male chauvinism that is going on in Meru should be called out for what it is. You know, I don't know Governor Kawira much, but you know, one having been elected as an independent governor, that shows that she's a woman of stellar. That means she has some substance. You know, to have beat the men in organized political parties. So I really think that maybe the men woke up a little late to the party, and you know, it's embarrassing that they've tried to oust her in the most unorthodox way several times. Tomorrow it will be shameful if the deputy governor is sworn in. I mean, I want to disagree with him. I'll tell you why.
So?
I'll tell you why.
Professor Gitile Naitule was supposed to be here.
She should be ashamed for actually missing out, because I'll tell you why. The law in terms of accession to once the governor's office is vacant puts it at 14 days. Okay. So, you know, you give it place for 14 days for someone else to, if at all the government...
you want to challenge.
Was that?
In case they want to
in case someone wants to challenge that process.
Okay.
The reason why the 14-day period is there is that because there could be circumstances you don't agree with, you know.
Okay.
So let us not just, you know, if you want the law to work for you, you must also play by the law. So I really find it strange that, you know, people want to be sworn in tomorrow, yet things go south, then you want to go to the courts.
What is this that they say that a Bose vacuum?
Power Bose vacuum.
But don't you think that would be?
No. There's no. I mean, there's not a vacuum because
she's still the governor.
Because absent the governor, there'll be the deputy governor then ascends. But the deputy governor's ascension to power is structured. It will be a shame tomorrow, by the way, if because you see, the person who is supposed to swear in, the deputy governor, is supposed to be a judge.
A judge, yeah.
It will be shameful if Martha Koome does designate a judge to go and do the swearing process. One, she's a Meru woman. Number two, she's a chief justice. Number three, she'll be going counter to the law. So if at all she does those three things tomorrow, I really think that it will be a very embarrassing...
Historically, I'd want for us to look at what has played out in other counties and whether a similar, thing happened. Of course, we have seen Babayao, Waititu, what happened in Nairobi, and a couple of other counties. What do you suppose then? And what do you envision tomorrow? What are the possibilities anyway?
The possibility tomorrow is there should be, first of all, a court injunction to stop the swearing-in process. At least that should be what is proper, because two things. First of all, you can also not rush through the process because Governor Kawira still has a couple of appeals to do. You know, if at all she'd reach the highest level of appeal, then you can say, yes, the highest court has decided that now, look at what happened in the Embu case, with my friend Wabora. You know, so that once she's exhausted all the remedies, once she's exhausted all the appeal processes, then it's okay for someone else to be sworn in. I mean, the seat is not hers in perpetuity, but the seat should be taken away from her in an organized and a legal manner. That's a problem I have. So that tomorrow, if the deputy governor is sworn in, it will be a shame. But I think he wants to say something.
Let me just add one thing before we jump on to the next topic. I think, for me, you misunderstood me, and let me explain myself.
Right.
I do not have a dog in the fight. I do not care much about governor, even though I love her. because of standing up to, big men.
Right.
And, flooring them. Maybe, as I was saying, maybe the men woke up a little bit later and, oh, Mama is governor. But I want a closure.
And especially for the people of Meru who want...
It's been endless drama, bigger than Hollywood and Bollywood and whatever wood combined. So I need us to have a closure tomorrow. And I hope we get there. So we've brought in some problematic cases. There's Nairobi, there's Meru, there's Makueni, and Embu. We could try to say that these are teething problems, but I don't think a child can have teething problems for
close
how
to
many
10,
years? How many years have we had
15,
devolution?
coming year.
Yeah, so I think we need to get our act as county governments. First of all, the people we are electing to be governors, or to be even, the qualifications must be even bigger than the president in some way. I mean, look, I don't want to get into, what has happened or what has not happened in Nairobi, but Nairobi has produced the worst governors since the advent of devolution, the worst senators, and the worst women reps. And we're the most educated, we're the most enlightened. What now of the rural counties?
And I'm curious again, I'll probably bring it back to Senior here. Senior, the court cases, and you understand rather too well just how draining they can be for individuals who are supposed to serve. How much more for, the people who are looking forward to service? Perhaps you could say at the constituencies it is not as bad because number one, the place is in parliament and therefore there's representation, oversight, legislation. But then again, how much, draining would it be for the county, and what does it mean for the people of Meru who are eagerly waiting to have a governor who's serving them wholeheartedly and fully, yet she is there battling court cases because, of course, people are challenging her existence in this particular helm?
To be honest with you, is that the County Assembly of Meru is doing what it's supposed to be doing.
Okay.
It's checking the governor, it's oversighting the governor. So if you had many county assemblies oversighting and checking the governor, I mean, one of the things I've been liking about Meru is the act of, they've thrown away some 8 CECs, they refused to pass some of the CECs.
Yeah.
That's a good thing in terms of keeping the governor in check and balance. I like it. Because then, it requires of the governor to be a leader and negotiate. That is the interdependence of the county assembly and the governor's executive. So it's not a bad thing that, the MCAs have refused to pass bills, That's how it's supposed to be. In fact, the National Assembly and the presidency, the county assembly and the governors, it's not supposed to be romance, it's not supposed to be bromance, it's supposed to be fighting each other so that at least we respect each other in a way to deliver results. That's one. But what has happened with the Governor Mwangaza is that, the fact that they wanted to oust her once, she went through the motions, succeeded. I think it requires of sober people to know that, look, there's time for another fight. 2.5 years is not so much time. You can let her move around the county. And I think she's been delivering. I mean, I've been following her development track record. I think she's been doing quite a good thing. It's a shame. I mean, to be honest, I was part of Njurinjeke. This is about 1 year ago. I've been in Njurinjeke's sitting where the former CS Linturi was actually made Njurinjeke elder. Pretty embarrassing, pretty shameful. That is the time that this craziness started, and they installed the deputy governor at that time. They installed the deputy governor and told him, "Meru now is in your hands," and things like that. But I really think they should have stopped, so that at least the people of Meru benefit from development. So to the extent that the county government, the county assembly is strong and is keeping the governor in check, I like. But to the extent that the men have taken the fight for too long, it's shameful and embarrassing.
Okay.
You'll see, most of the county government have a challenge because most of them are elected by one single party. For example, maybe those ones in Bomet or Kericho are UDA, those ones in Homa Bay, Kisumu are ODM. It becomes a challenge, therefore, to check governors. And that is why there's theft, there's pilfering, and there is all manner of shenanigans going around in those counties. So if you had counties where, for example, you have a Mwangaza who is an independent and political parties, MCA, that will be very good for Kenya. And devolution really will work and it will thrive.
Okay.
Let me just add one thing about devolution. If there is a silver lining about devolution,
right,
a silver lining, which is a blessing in this case, not so much a good thing. So we find in homogeneous counties, I will give an example of maybe, I don't know, Muranga, Kirinyaga,
right,
and probably Bomet or Kericho, and Homa Bay, where we have one tribe being homogeneous.
Yeah.
But I think Kenyans ought to take a keen look at these counties. We've seen corruption in these counties. So it shows that our major problem as Kenya is not ukabila. It is bad governance. So in fact, if there's one thing we should be a rallying call so that we never have this stupid tribalism, let us look at the homogeneous counties and how those governors who 100% of the people who elected them speak one language and the corruption which has gone down there.
Okay. Neto, I've not heard you speak about the Independent Electoral and Boundary Commission. And I know this will be very instrumental. We are about to get to, listen in to what SK Macharia had to say yesterday as to the numerous, what one would call secret polls concerns in the country, just highlighting the various years and how he thinks that the Right Honorable Raila Odinga was shortchanged in the process of the presidential election. But before we even come to that, and of course as well highlight this concern of Nduta, and I'm glad I see Professor on board already. He is a specialist on international relations, and therefore he would probably be well placed to tell us some more as to that. What do you make of the fact that we still do not have a fully constituted Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, probably 2 years shy to the elections, and you would want to see yourselves fielding, first of all, a presidential candidate and, have the six-tier kind of approach as to, just fronting your candidates for, to vie for the various seats? Do you trust that the process is going to be good enough for you, first of all, as a party, and now for the people of Kenya, as to ensuring that we get a process that is credible enough?
So, first of all, it's bad enough that the country has had no IEBC for such a long time. In fact, the Constitution does not anticipate that an independent commission like the IEBC should not be constituted, so that several sub-counties, several wards have gone without representation for the longest. I think it's shameful. It's not what was constitutionally expected. That's one. But the second thing is, I think, let's take it from the Kriegler Commission. I mean, we cannot be a bundle of warthogs as a country, that we constantly forget where we've come from. Post-election violence 2007-2008 should have told us a few things, and the Kriegler Commission said very well that you need to have an election management body at least 2 years before the election. So the fact that the IEBC hasn't been constituted is going to cost the country a couple of things. Number one, the delimitation of boundaries as anticipated by the Constitution should have taken place between 8 and 12 years. That's most unlikely going to happen.
Right.
There's not going to be a delimitation process unless something strange happens, So that is the first thing. But the second thing is that we saw the trouble that the Chebukati 3 and the Cherera 4 had. It's an issue of team building. Election management processes is something that needs a team effort. It needs you to move together.
Right.
To bring in people of diverse backgrounds, people of diverse interests, and to try to make them a team in 2 years with big procurement money, with big political interest, I really think it's just really a powder keg. But the third and the most frustrating thing is I see this evening my friend Dr. Boni Alwale, with whom I've been on set, has actually tweeted that he already has a new face of a chairman. I mean, he's a member of the Senate. He's a member of the UDA party. I don't know where he gets the audacity to I mean, so if at all this gentleman actually ends up becoming the chair of IEBC, then it simply tells you...
At least we know we have the list of names.
It simply tells you, but it simply tells you then that the whole exercise was a charade. But fourth and last that I stop, because I want to get to Professor to discuss international relations. By the way, he taught me international relations.
He did?
In the master's
Professor
class.
Macharia Munene, thank you so much for finding time.
He did teach me international relations at my master's at USIU. So I look forward to us engaging from an international relations perspective.
Right.
But lastly, is I think that the list of Kenyans who applied for these IEBC jobs, you can see the list. No one wants to. I think, I don't want to speak badly, but some of these jobs are very dangerous. Some of these jobs are very dangerous. And that is the reason why the number of people who are attracted to apply. I stopped there.
All right, Professor Macharia Munene, we acknowledge your presence, but before you say something, because it's quite interesting to just watch what is happening in the country, allow us to look at this story where DAP Kenya Party leader Eugene Wamalwa has criticized the Kenya Kwanza government over what he termed as failing to honor the cry of Kenyans and the church over the heavy burdens of taxation. And speaking at Luanya Catholic Church in Busia County, Wamalwa said that despite the Catholic bishops calling on the government to lower the cost of living and the Gen Z demos over the same, nothing has been done. That is to save the common mwananchi. Wamalwa also was outraged by the decision made by Sudan government over the ban of importing tea from Kenya, saying that the ban will then affect the economy of many Kenyans who depend on farming.
Sababu hata kama azimio inasambaratika, sababu ya siasa zinazokuja, wale ambao tumebaki nyuma, tuwataka tusimame na kanisa Katoliki na wale ambao wamesimama na wa Kenya. Sababu yale alifanya tuende kwa maandamano ilikuwa ni ushuru kupanda. Kanisa limeambia Zakayo shukisha ushuru, lakini huyu Zakayo sio kama Zakayo wa Biblia. Yesu alipoambia Zakayo ashuke, Zakayo alifanya nini? Alishuka. Zakayo wa Kenya ameambiwa na kanisa shukisha ushuru, amekataa kushuka. Leo tuwasema tukienda mbele, the Catholic Church, we want to continue standing with you. Mkisimama na Wakristo mkiendelea kuwa sauti ya wanyonge. Sababu hakuna yale yamebadilika. Yeyote aliyo na payslip bado imefinywa, imefinyika. Ushuru bado unaendelea. Ufisadi ambao kanisa ilisema mpunguze, Gen Z wakasema tukomeshe, ufisadi bado unaendelea.
Coming up after the break, the beauty of varsity basketball. We tell you of varsity basketball with the emergence of Nairobi's City Thunder, who recently made history by qualifying for the Basketball Africa League.
Our world is changing every day, and so should we, for the better. Each week, we tackle the big why, the question that should be on everyone's minds. Why isn't this fixed yet? Deforestation, global warming, and the adverse effects of climate change. The future isn't just something that we inherit, it's something that we create. Join us on The Green Fix as we tell the stories of those who refuse to give up. When it comes to fixing the planet, there is no time to waste. Join me, Shiksha Arora, on Thursdays at 9 p.m. on The Green Fix as we look into the big why, you and I.
For comprehensive information and education on your health, Body Garage is here.
Don't allow anyone to pluck out your good tooth as long as it is strong and stable.
Cancer doesn't start today and you get the symptoms tomorrow. By the time you pick it or the time it is manifesting in you, probably will be there about 5 to 10 years.
The eye is the window to the rest of the body.
Don't forget to stay hydrated.
And of course, you at home do take your water.
So the ultimate test is actually you check your urine. Your urine should be clear.
Clear like the water.
Yes. Should be able to see the other side of the urine. If your urine is colored or has changed color, you cannot see the other side, then you have not taken enough water.
Don't forget regular health checkups. Early detection saves lives.
I want the message be, we can prevent cervical cancer. We prevent cervical cancer in several ways. You have young girls and even somebody who's above that age
Sports News brought to you by Maybet. Bet Bila Stake. Predict the outcome of 8 pre-selected games and win up to 100,000 shillings. Only at maybet.com.
And welcome back to the broadcast. This is the TV47 Weekend Edition, and by extension, we get to that space of the political chase game. Kipturia on board, as well as Agostino Neto and Professor Macharia Muneni, as we unpack the political situation in the country. And of course, today we'll be extending it further to look at where we stand, internationally. Where are we placed when you talk about international relations? I see your feedback coming in. I'll be looking at some of them as we continue. But first, on sports, for a long period of time, Kenya has been widely recognized as a country passionate about sports, producing some of the greatest athletes and some of the best rugby teams ever seen in the world. However, despite a variety of Kenyan sports teams flourishing, that is in the past few years, there is one in particular that has made a late surge into the big leagues, Kenya's basketball, and of course with the emergency of Nairobi City Thunder, who recently made history by qualifying for the Basketball Africa League. Our sports reporter Nzuki Elan walks us through this great team and of course where it all begins, varsity basketball. Take a look.
Kenya's basketball recently gained continental attention after the mighty Nairobi City Thunder made history by becoming the first ever Kenyan side to qualify for the Basketball Africa League. Despite Nairobi City Thunder's star power, Fidel Okoth and Garang Ding embody homegrown talent, rising from Strathmore University ranks to the international stage. A journey that now inspires Strathmore Blades forward, Timothy Oyo, to follow in their footsteps.
At a turning point because I feel like other teams are kind of following the same script as Thunder. So people are trying to invest more in sports, kind of giving athletes a more career-oriented, playing style because, you have to pay players, you have to pay them allowances, you have to, take good care of them in terms of the physios, the medical insurance. So it's a turning point for Kenya because if this wave goes on well, this might be the moment where athletes in Kenya can reside in the country and still get paid to play what they enjoy.
In Kenya, basketball isn't just a game. It's a pathway to education, and Oyo is one of the many players who have benefited from Strathmore Sports Scholarship Aid.
A substantial amount for the fees, and considering Strathmore is like one of the best, if not the best university in East and Central Africa. So just being given the opportunity to come here on a scholarship and being able to get the quality education that they offer at that price that we pay because of the scholarship is a big advantage to us. And also being allowed to play as well, it kind of like is the cream.
To finish your school here, you're already scouted. Once you're in third year, you're scouted with big teams like Equity and the Twenders now. So the big motivation is that you can get a job opportunity once you're done, and you have a degree from one of the best schools in the country. So that's a motivation for us.
Strathmore is one of the few institutions that operates with a well-structured scouting system that is dedicated to identifying and nurturing exceptionally talented players from different high schools across the country.
Strathmore, we have a structured way of how we do things. One of them is that we do recruitment directly from high school, whereby we offer them a sports scholarship vis-a-vis academic scholarship. And from there we do skill assessment, then we take them to the teams.
And just like many other students, these young and gifted student athletes face the constant challenge of balancing academic excellence with peak performance on the court, all while managing the weight of high expectations.
One of the areas that it has been, the way it kind of impacts us is you know, you have to balance your books and, you know, the game. And you have so many classes, and you have to do well in class as well as in the court. So it kind of gives you the push to, you know, go and be better every day. So the way we play the league, it's a reflection of what we do in class. So you see us excel in the league, and also in class we are doing pretty well.
A matter of balancing at all. It's all a matter of balancing. We train after classes. Weekends we have league games. And remember, these are sharp players too. Most of them do well in academics. So balancing is a very key factor. So there's a way how we balance academics and a way how we balance sports.
Despite the struggles, the dedication and hard work pay off, with many of these players earning spots on the country's top teams, along with a degree to match their efforts.
It's a tough pool. You have to compete to get an opportunity, and once you get an opportunity, you have to maximize it to the fullest. And you know, you have to compete against professionals as students. You know, again, it's hard because people have 8 to 5 as professionals, and as we have 8 to 5 classes. So you know, you have to balance, because we are student athletes, so you have to balance. But you know, you're given a scholarship, you have to do your part, and you have to compete.
However, Strathmore University isn't the only institution excelling in nurturing basketball talent in the country. African Nazarene University has steadily risen through the ranks, establishing itself as a powerhouse and making a formidable impact in the league.
Giving them a scholarship, paying for them their university tuition fees, and giving them the experiences they have never had before by going for all the games in the national KUSA games and Kenya Basketball Federation Premier League.
Scholarship kit, we are a family, so we help each other grow. That is the main thing. The main thing on the scholarship is to first get your degree, and it has always been the main thing.
Unlike many other countries, while university teams compete in separate college leagues, varsity teams in Kenya go head-to-head with the best in the National Basketball League and rarely back down from a fight.
The Premier League is a privilege. A lot of guys want to play in the bigger league, and they don't have the opportunity. So staying true to what we do, finding passion in what we do, the rest of the things usually fall into place.
Teams like African Nazarene and Strathmore consistently make it to the playoffs, a true testament to the depth of young talent shaping the future of Kenyan basketball.
Thing which I wanted so much to do ever since I was a kid. I was looking forward to play against Okal, Tyler, Odera, and it's a blessing for me playing against them, to see how they react, how they focus on the court, how they reason in the court, how is their IQ in the court, you see. So it has really helped me mentally, physically, to know and to adjust on my game, and even to go outside there to teach other kids that, to tell them that everything is possible.
At African Nazarene University, scouting goes beyond high school teams, extending to talented young players from lower-tier clubs across the country. Through scholarships, these athletes are given a golden opportunity to play the game they love while pursuing a degree, seamlessly blending their passion for basketball with academic excellence.
If I can say your performance in basketball, your work rate, and your willingness to study. We don't just focus on basketball because our scholarship is education.
Scholarship has been big, especially my family side. My mother, she's alone, so the scholarship is a big boost to my studies, and to the other guys also, it helps to concentrate because you're not worried about a lot of stuff.
African Nazarene University is built for basketball. You might even mistake it for a professional team. With a top-tier indoor arena fit to host league games, the Wolfpacks thrive on their home court, often dominating their opponents while feeding off the energy of their passionate fans.
It's special because as a varsity, we are competing against the best teams around there. We are at least 4 varsities competing there. So amongst us, I think we are the best so far. You're going to prove that so far.
Basketball has provided a livelihood for many, with the success of various alumni serving as a testament to how sports can transform lives and create endless opportunities.
Humbled enough to be the pioneers of this team, and it was a huge process. The scholarship program started off in 2015, and we were the first people to be allocated scholarship here. So ilikuwa process poa and laying the foundations of a strong team from Division 1, NBA Division 1, and now they're in the Premier League. It's a great honor, getting to see them be who they are right now.
For some, joining the team was a resurgence of hope, a second chance at a brighter future. Now, they not only excel on the court, but also walk away with degrees, proving that basketball is more than just a game.
Most of our players outside there, inside here, we don't have that much financial stability. Yeah, we really depend on this scholarship. The organization, from the dean staff, from the student council, they have really helped out so much, because most of us, sometimes we find difficulties in doing exams because maybe you have not cleared the fee balance. But because they see how we sweat, how we dedicate ourselves in training, how we dedicate ourselves in games, they tried so much, even them, to at least to help us in financial, in that scholarship part of it.
Despite their youth, these players possess extraordinary athleticism, strength, and refined technique. Some stand over 6'5" tall at just 23 years old, showcasing the raw potential and talent that enable them to dominate on the court.
It has not been easy, but as students, our coach has always prepared us well. He has always kept us on track. We do our training every day and we compete at the highest level.
With many players coming from challenging backgrounds, the scholarships not only change the course of a young athlete's future, but also ease the burden on the entire family, offering hope, stability, and a chance to break the cycle of hardships.
I'm a half orphan, like my parents cannot afford the school fee, and this is a private school. So the scholarship has been of great importance to me. It has walked me through since I started my certificate at Nazarena. I'm passing my diploma. It has never been easy. Even in every time of need, when I can't raise the school fees, the school come in and help me a lot of time. Until right now, I can say that scholarship has really helped me a lot.
With the Kenya Basketball Federation elections on the horizon, many believe it's a chance for a fresh start, a turning point that could finally propel Kenya's basketball to the heights it deserves.
Professionalize it more, build the structures, follow the structures. Elections are coming up, and I just hope the right people will be elected in office, and those who are elected in office to be intentional about building a system, a structure that works. And if that happens, the next 3-5 years are going to be amazing. Kenya basketball is going to be amazing for sure.
Despite the various hardships, many of these players are still hopeful that one day they can turn this talent into a livelihood that will not only provide for them, but also for their families. But for now, the dream goes on. Nzuki Allen for TV47. Sports.
Thank you, Nzuki, for that beautiful piece. To some more, 13-year-old striker Brenda Ching stole the show after she netted a brace to help lead the national under-17 women's team, Junior Starlets, that is to a dominant 3-0 win over Uganda's Teen Cranes, that is in a World Cup qualifier match played at Nyayo National Stadium. The Mildred Chege-led side went into the game with a solid 2-0 lead, and that is after the quick of the blocks as the Patience Asiko showed off her impressive pace, that is to net opening goal in the 4th minute to ensure they head into the half. or the halftime with a slender 1-0 lead. The host kept on knocking on the door in the second half, and their efforts eventually paid off as Achieng doubled up the lead in the 86th minute and finally completed her brace in stoppage time. Kenya will now lock horns with giants Cameroon in the final qualifier rounds as the 80th seek to secure, or as they both seek to secure themselves a ticket, that is, to the FIFA Under-17 Women's World Cup set to take place next year in Morocco.
Tunaweza make it, na pia sisi tulijua kweli kama away tulipata win, home ni possible because tuko na fans, tuko home na tulijua itakuwa easy. So I'm also happy because tuko ready next to face Cameroon.
Of course, when we played our away match, there were some gaps and we had to fill them in training, and also we had our best players who were not able to compete physically, but once we got someone like Asiko who could hold the ball for the rest to join in, and then it made the team comfortable in attack, and then we got our first goal immediately. And then now bringing in Brenda as a game changer, I think it summed up everything.
AFC Leopards have been forced to come back from behind to register a 1-1 draw against Shabana in the Football Kenya Federation fixture played at the Kenyatta Stadium, Machakos County. Omundi Nyabuti gave the Glamour Boys the lead inside 19 minutes of play as Ovela Ochieng restored parity with 1 minute to the interval, with both teams settling for the minimum points. Elsewhere, Mara Sugar and Bidco United settled for a barren draw.
Mwanzo nasema niko disappointed. Sikuwa naspenda napata point moja, nilikuwa nimekuja point 3, lakini sasa ndio imefanyika. Lakini pia it's high time federation iangalie mambo ya viwanja kama hizi hata kuchezea mpira bana. Viwanja kama hizi bana zinafanya hata wedges za mpira ile unapenda, unacheza vitu za ajabu jua nini? Kiwanja yenyewe ni open nini? Hizo ni vitu mazee nafaa pia federation iangalie kabla fix matches. Kama viwanja bado ni normal, watafute viwanja bana. Hii ni kazi ngumu sana. Coach unafanya kazi yako, unakuja kwa kiwanja unapata kiwanja ni open. Mimi na feel mazee it's high time wa fix mambo za facilities za Kenya ndio at least ball iko rahisi.
Tunashukuru kwanza kwa ile fight tumekuwa nayo. Haijakuwa mechi rahisi, imekuwa ni mechi ngumu. Ukiangalia imekuwa ni mechi ya chances both sides. So tulipata bao ya mapema but kidogo tulishindwa kumanage play with a set piece. Ilikuwa ni foul, so ilikuwa ni throw ball kwetu, tukawapatia wakacapitalize na hiyo chance. So ni kitu imekuwa ikijirudia na inasumbua sana, especially on that side. So ni kitu tutaenda rudi tuwakie. As much as tuna build something, so inakuwa frustrating wakati inajirudia. So we'll just go and work on it, but just recommend the boys na kila mtu kwa fight na wamefight leo.
All right, before we go back to the political chase game, let's take this one. Omenda's Naivasha Wrestling Club scooped the overall top prize after amassing a total of 21 points, followed by Ruiru Towns, that is Watalam Wrestling Club, who earned 12 points, while Prisons Service Training College from Kiambu County came in third with 8 points. The second edition of the Naivasha Wrestling Tournament. Over 100 of wrestlers took part in the tournament and looking up to grab a ticket for the 2025 Under-18, Under-20 and Senior African Wrestling Championship set to be held in Casablanca, Morocco from April the 29th to May 4th. After the Naivasha event, the focus will now shift to Makueni County for Makueni Open that has already been scheduled for April 4th to 5th this year.
Sports News brought to you by Maybets. Bet Bila Stake. Predict the outcome of 8 pre-selected games and win up to 100,000 shillings. Only at maybets.com.
Well, that's it for the sports lovers. We now get back to our conversation. The political chess game is on. Professor Macharia Munene, Professor International Relations at the United States International University, that is USIU. And we also have right next to him, Kosonei Kiptoya, member of Kijani Kibichi Party of Kenya. And last but not least, co-leader UGM Party, that is United Green Movement Party, Agostino Neto. Agostino, you mobilized this evening. Your people are watching and are asking numerous questions. Professor, before you came on board, we're just looking at what's happening in the country politically. I'm sure we're going to get to that some more, of course, listening to what Macharia SK had to say. SK Macharia yesterday, I hope you listened to him, but even if you didn't, you need not to worry. We'll be having some excerpts of those or of that particular clip, just to hear what he has to say about the political situation in the country. But let me just respond to some of the questions, or perhaps ask some of the questions and the feedback that we get this evening as we loop you in. I am watching from Nairobi. First, say hi to Honorable Neto Agostino and ask him if there is any process constitutionally that can take place if the president refuses to appoint or delays on appointing the IBC commission. I hope you can respond to that. There is also one gentleman, that was Dominic Stanley, and then there is Steve Ogutu, who asks, or who says, great insights by you guests. Kenya's democracy stands at crossroads while declining democratic space. I think to ensure an inclusive and effective democracy, political parties must go ahead to prioritize the broader interest of the Kenyan people, focusing on transparency, accountability, and protection of fundamental freedoms. That it is essential for all political leaders to foster unity, promote meaningful dialogue, and work towards a reform that enhance citizen participation and equitable representation. By doing so, we can strengthen our democratic institutions and as well create a political environment where governance truly serves the needs of all citizens. And of course, he goes ahead to say jambo today too, as well as Kiptoya. I see you also mobilized. Lots of people equally sending their greetings right here as they watch. Professor, I hope you mobilized. I hope you mobilize this evening. Let's get to hear what they have to say. What do you make of the political situation briefly in the country before we get to this story of Nduta?
Well, it's very fluid.
Mm-hmm. Is there a time ever we've been in such a space, or this is unique?
Well, there have been a few times, not too many.
Mm-hmm.
But there's some element of uniqueness in this one.
Okay.
We are not sure what's going on.
Right.
There was time when you could say, oh yeah, we know this is happening, this is happening. The last handshake has left people wondering how firm the shake was.
Yes.
Because it was peculiar. Mm-hmm. We have an economy, a country which is suffering economically in a very serious way. We have a country whose foreign policy is in doubt as to which way it is going. So things are not looking as good as they should be. We have a country that appears to have surrendered its sovereignty to some peculiar forces. So we keep on hearing, oh, this happened, oh, this happened. How come? And when you ask, you are told, oh, the IMF told us, or somebody else did this, which in itself raises the question, since Kenya did not elect the IMF or the World Bank or Adanis, where are they coming in?
Right.
This kind of thing. A lot of question marks. We have a situation where it appears as if the government is not listening to itself, let alone to other people. And so things appear to go wrong, and nobody can be pinned to say you are responsible for this. So that's why the situation looks rather disturbing.
Right.
Not to one person, but to many people. And this is across the board,
And it needed the hand of Right Honorable Raila Odinga to help solve the situation, because then that is what the leadership says, or they see fit?
I don't think there was need for Raila Odinga to stabilize things. Let's put it this way. Raila is a politician. Ruto is a politician. There are two politicians in trouble, so they get together.
So they are saving...
They're saving each other. Raila just come from an embarrassment in Addis Ababa.
Was that Raila's embarrassment to Kenya's embarrassment?
It was Raila.
It was Raila's, you think so?
Yes. Maybe
You're a
together
professor of international relations. What does it paint Kenya to be?
No, I think there was misplaced expectation.
Okay.
And if there was an embarrassment, it was about 200 to 300 people going to dance in Addis Ababa, or something that was not there. That was the embarrassment. Being defeated is not an embarrassment.
Right.
You know, the other side, the candidate was polished, and he seemed to have some cards on his side there, generally. The challenge that Raila faced, there were essentially three, and they were all related to Kenya. The presidents, who are the ones who voted, of the various countries, each of them was a voter. So do they trust Ruto?
Good question.
Yeah, for whatever reason.
All right.
Then you come to the other element, Kenya, as it has been behaving, or being seen to behave. This issue of abductions did not make Kenya look very good. That foreigners who come to Kenya properly then get abducted on the streets of Nairobi, with everybody watching. And then it said that the government had a role in the abduction. It's not a very good picture, is it? Forget about the Kenyans being abducted. The images were not coming out right. The claim that you are selling your airport, the main airport, is disappearing with somebody, a dealer from India, who seems to be an instrument of Indian foreign policy, because that's what he appears to be. So there are people asking, wait a minute, that country, are the African interests likely to go the same way?
Okay.
You know, that sort of thing. Then you have Raila himself as a person, and his record, they know it.
Yes.
Because he's well known. And he's known for a few good things, and those who believe he's a good, they voted for him, at least 15 countries. The others may have had some serious doubts.
Okay.
One of the doubts was he is on record as a coup maker.
All right.
And these are people who are to preserve themselves. So I wonder whether, put this guy that he might gang up with some people to ensure that I'm not there, especially when you gang up with some foreign powers.
Okay.
So there were a lot of things going into it that made each of the voter
consider
all those things.
Right.
Consider self-interest of self-preservation, consider national interest as he perceives them, and consider the continental interest. So they sat there and said, all those interests, are they safe with this guy?
Okay.
If they don't think they are safe with them, they say no.
Interesting.
At least that's the way I think it happened.
How it played.
And even before people went and voted, you talk to some people, they say, you people are going nowhere. You know, despite the enthusiasm in the country, which was good.
Okay.
But outside there, it was a different matter altogether.
You know, you say this, and I am, you know, my plan was to get into the Nduta Margaret concern, but I am tempted to play this clip. You know, and just listening to what happened yesterday during the burial of Cole, that is, of course, the ceremony of his life, and what SK Macharia had to say about the Right Honorable Raila Odinga, and perhaps ask this question: do you suppose that Kenyans equally calculated all this matrix, you know, as they were presented with Right Honorable Raila Odinga on the ballot, or perhaps it's what SK Macharia says. Has the Right Honorable Raila Odinga been flawed on the previous occasions where he's presented his bid, or genuinely flawed, or what SK Macharia then says is true? Let's listen into that.
207, Kibaki won, and we had data, complete data, that it's Raila who had won the election. I know some people will run away here, but let them run away, because we agreed with the Getai. I'm speaking to the soul of Getai. Here is only the body. And we had agreed whoever dies first will reveal this information. So that's why I'm doing it. Our data was showing Raila had won with 1.8 million votes. And I was picked from my house at night, and all the returning officers from Mount Kenya region were held somewhere, and their return forms taken. And I was taken to my office. I found some people, I'm not going to mention their names, and we changed all those figures, and Kibaki won the election against him. I'm not going to mention about 2013 election, which again was Uhuru, or 2012 to 2013. Again, I campaigned for Raila, and Royal Media had already started then, and Inoro TV and Citizen TV were switched off in the whole of Mount Kenya region, but that could not make me change my belief in Raila, because Raila was left to me by his father. In the election of 2017, it was Raila against Uhuru and Ruto at that time, the current president. We learned that the register had been changed. You keep on pressing me, I will stop. The register has been changed for voters. When you are registered a voter, you have your fingerprint, you have your photograph, and you have full names. That's some names. They have taken some IDs from the death register, and they have the names, but they don't have a photograph. That's how Raila got beaten but remember, Malaga codified discrepancies and drew away the election. And Raila said he's not going to repeat the election with the IBC being not changed. So obviously it was Uhuru and Ruto. They won the second round, the repeat, easily. 2022 election comes. It's Raila against Ruto. They were saying we have deep states, and Ruto would tell them which deep states you have, because Ruto knew exactly how the extra votes will be put it doesn't matter. You know, I'm 82 years. If I get kidnapped or hijacked, 84. It doesn't matter. Kano is gone and he was younger than me. So we must just tell this, because I want to tell.
Gentlemen, we don't want to assume that these are new things to us, because then we have witnessed the court processes that followed. every other of that election that SK Macharia mentions. Just that, of course, Kenyans are excited of this, or perhaps just giving it a keen ear based on the caliber or the persona of SK Macharia, and such allegations or perhaps such utterances coming from him then perhaps would get us to levels where we want to question some more. And he goes into the nitty-gritty details of what he thinks could have costed the Right Honorable Raila Odinga the elections. What do you make of these utterances at such a time? And in all this, there was Raila, shaking hands, there is Raila handshaking, there's the Grand Coalition government, there's the handshake at 2018, that one of Uhuru, and now there's this one of Ruto, and you want to call it the broad-based government. Kiptuya, we come to you first. And I know we can't belabor on this so much so because of time, but yes.
I would have wanted the professor to elucidate more. Let me try. I think I may actually want to digress because I think we need to move forward. I think if there is one clarion call I've been on this,
that's why I say we do not belabor on that so much.
So I think, my message is to the young people. Let's take charge of this country. While we appreciate the wisdom and the experience of our elders, we must bring in the ingenuity, the freshness, and the clarity of vision of a new generation. And I think Raila, I wish I could speak to him. I respect him. I love him. He's been the soundtrack of our politics. And let me just get back to what the professor said. I respectfully disagree with the professor. I think we lost because of geopolitics. It might have been, in some small way, a referendum on President Ruto and a referendum on the nation of Kenya, on the missteps we've had in the past few months. But I think, that said, I think let's get a new gear. Let's engage a new gear moving forward.
Okay. Yes. Fair enough.
But I think Professor also agrees with you in terms of geopolitics. I think, Linda, the conversation we really need to have today is more of this foreign policy issue. In fact,
and we're going to come to that. That's why we say we do not belabor much on this, just that this one, Prof got us here.
This one that you've shown us is characteristic, parasitic political behavior.
Okay.
They want Raila on the ballot in 2027.
Yes.
So it's that simple.
They say he's going to be there, blatantly.
So when you see them behave like that, it's simply because they want Raila on the ballot in 2027.
And is there anything wrong with that?
No. I mean, it's their right to have him on the ballot so that they can sack him some more because he can't win. It's too disorganized to win an election. I mean, I have been blunt with Raila Odinga, Linda. I used to be a member of that party before I founded the UGM party. Election winning requires discipline. Election winning requires preparedness, which I think Raila and his coalitions are seldom wanting to put in place. So to come after every election and cry that it was stolen, when you do not have agents half the country who is taking care of your vote. So you cannot take us into this emotional trauma of you lose, then you come back here and say it was stolen, so what?
Okay.
I mean, the fact that you didn't prepare very well. I mean, the last election, the UDA tallying center was full of people. Every constituency had an agent at the UDA tallying center.
Manning their vote?
No, the secretariat in Nairobi.
Okay.
They had a floor of people with tallying results, verifying an announcement is made, you send it over. Whatever it was called, that coalition, was too disorganized. They're always ill-prepared. So this one is a story whatever it was called.
Okay.
So these ones, they want him on the ballot again in 2027. We wish them best of luck. But as Greens, we are not in any of those coalitions. So as Greens, we will hopefully run a presidential candidate. And we hope it will not be too disorganized as these ones have been.
Before we go to
who are these people?
Before we go to Prof, and perhaps just listening to what again SK Macharia says. He says, I am old enough, whether they kidnap me, abduct me, and anything. I'd want to hear your view on the abductions that continue playing out in the country, and the kidnapping, if you'd want to call that, and sometimes the state distancing itself from that.
I mean, President Ruto, when he was in my home county, in Homa Bay, I don't remember what date it was, said, we will stop those abductions, which was the most embarrassing thing any head of state can ever say. I mean, to be honest, you can't even if you're doing it, You can't come out in the open and say you'll stop the abductions.
Okay.
Article 24 of the...
That was an acknowledgement?
Whatever it was.
Okay.
Article 24 of the Constitution of Kenya says, inhuman degrading treatment is not anything else. In fact, those are the non-derogative rights. They're constitutional rights that are non-derogable. So for a whole president of Kenya to go and say we will stop those abductions, it simply shows that someone has been derogating on rights that they should not be. All Kenyans, every presidency should be criticized to the extent that they do not overthrow the government. Everyone else should be criticized. That is why we have a robust constitution. Those Article 37 rights are not pie in the sky. Mm-hmm. You're supposed to express yourself. The freedom of expression is guaranteed. In fact, freedom is development. That I'm expressing myself to you right now on TV I am going to sleep very happy because at least I told you.
Right.
As a presidency, you should let people tell you what you think, because again, sovereignty belongs to the people. It simply means that we've yielded our sovereignty to you. Use it in the way that we anticipate. Use it in the way that we want. No one is supposed to be running us out of town. But I digress. There's a point I wanted to make, and you make me digress. I don't want to discuss.
My apologies. All right. Hey.
I think the point that I wanted to speak to more is on the foreign policy issue.
We'll come back to that. Okay. We want to hear what Prof has to say about that. And briefly, Professor, because SK Macharia is not a person you want to wash away or wish away, especially when he speaks, which he rarely does. And what do you suppose he is communicating? Neto says he perhaps is communicating the fact that the Right Honorable Raila Odinga will be on the ballot. Kiptuya here says we might need to move on. What do you make of that?
Well, in the first place, Raila will be on the ballot.
Okay.
Unless something happens.
That is a confirmation.
Even before he went to Addis, he kept on saying, I'm going to be there.
Okay.
He said that Addis is only 2 hours away.
Mm-hmm. So, he's still home.
Yeah, so.
Okay.
No, my namesake has a right to be wrong, and it's his opinion, because he has been said I've always supported this fellow.
Right.
And when I support him, he loses. Okay, so maybe you need to find out why.
Yeah.
why that happens. It is not true, in my view, that he has won all those things and they were all stolen. It's not true.
It's not possible or true.
Like the last one, the 2022, Raila lost it himself.
Yeah.
Okay? And Mheshimiwa has explained how.
Yeah.
How do you go around having no agents anywhere? It doesn't make any sense. And he's supposed to have a strong base. Homa Bay. People did not vote. They celebrated without voting. Yeah. And then you say, what's going on? The 207, Kibaki won that very narrowly, and he won it. Of course, I know people don't like hearing that, but he won it. And it could be shown very clearly. Because of that claim, we created a commission, the Kriegler Commission.
Yep.
And the mandate of the Kriegler Commission was to investigate whether there was any theft at KICC.
Yeah.
Because that was the excuse. And what did Kriegler find? With the commissioners from ODM and PNU together, they came out and said there was no theft at KICC. Right. That's what they said.
Yes.
If anything, Kibaki lost 40,000 votes because of bad arithmetic, not deliberate. Kalonzo lost 30,000 because of bad arithmetic, and Raila lost 20,000 votes because of bad what? But there was no theft. Now, if you were to project that across the country, what does it tell you? Okay? It was very tight.
Okay.
And it was not a Kenyan election in the first place.
Interesting.
Because as soon as it was announced what the result, first of all, those who followed me, and I followed it very carefully.
Right.
There were 2 days of people jumping on tables, stopping Kevoito from announcing the results. I don't know whether you remember that.
Yes.
And there was the night of the count. And they agreed to count the votes together, and the result would be announced in the morning.
Okay.
So they counted the whole night. And then the results that were supposed to be announced in the morning, they were not announced because people were jumping on tables.
Okay.
Root of among them, saying no. Anyway, but that's a different story.
Okay.
And as soon as the results were announced, what happened? the British government immediately demanded power sharing.
Okay.
So you say, on what basis? On what basis?
Right.
So the whole thing appeared as if it was very well
calculated,
orchestrated. So what I'm saying is that SK Macharia is a very influential person.
Right.
He is a man of means, and he has seen his days in the battlefields. But that does not mean that he's right.
Okay.
But Linda, I think there's something that I need to say. I think let's
make it brief so we can get to the foreign.
I mean, let's be honest. I think Raila won 2007, the 2007 election.
Okay.
I really think that the only reason why, I mean, of course, I just said that what SK Macharia is saying is because they want to sack up Raila one more time, they want to have him on the ballot. So they're giving him hope. They're fattening him before the slaughter, as they always do.
Okay.
But 2007, the reason why, I think Kriegler said both sides had stolen the election. You understand? There were electoral malpractices on both sides. And even though there were electoral malpractices on both sides, the ODM, having practiced more electoral malpractice, had actually won the election. So I think that should be that is the point I wanted to make.
a very small point on the...
As we close on this, yes.
As we close. So Raila Amolo Odinga says the only election he has lost is 2002. I mean, the only election which has been fair in Kenya is 2002. And I think we are all in agreement.
Okay.
Bakitosha. Yeah. And that was because mostly it was because...
No, but that is because his side won. That is because his side won. I mean, let's be blunt about that one.
But it's also because I think it was more a protest vote, a referendum on the outgoing president who had gotten very unpopular. Hayati Raisa Moi. But also I think there was an aspect of, there was no tribalism in that election. I think Uhuru Kenyatta was a Kipsigis candidate. Mwai Kibaki was a Luo candidate. So probably maybe when we don't have an ethnic angle in the election, maybe it can get better. And I hope.
And next week we actually hope to discuss, the politics of tribe and regions, on this very same set. But then I see time is moving very fast. We shelve that one of Right Honorable Raila Odinga because he will always surface, no matter how much we want to run away from him. But yes, Foreign Affairs Principal Secretary Kware Singwe says that of course he held a phone conversation with Vietnamese or Vietnam's Deputy Minister Foreign Affairs Nguyen Minh Hang. And he conveyed the anxiety of Kenyans, of course, to that particular state over the concern of Margaret Nduta Macharia. Informally requested stay off namesake. We really haven't gotten any development as to that. We are still waiting to hear what has played out. The silence is deafening, as many would say. But before it gets to that point, gentlemen, and Neto, because you said that you're a student of Macharia Munene, I'm sure he would eagerly wait to hear what you make of this situation of Nduta, and Kenyans calling upon the government to intervene. What does it mean? I mean, how did it have? Why did it have to get to this very point, and how best can we handle it?
Yeah. So first of all, I think the reason why I was eager to talk about this is for three reasons. I think Nduta's situation is dicey, and I'll tell you why.
And the government acknowledges that.
Yeah, but the government, that is where the problem begins, and that's where I want to start. I think Professor Macharia Munene has spoken that, Kenya currently looks like we do not have a foreign policy. Yeah. I mean, the foreign policy is what the president wakes up in bed in the morning thinking. That's not how foreign policy works. Foreign policy, and of course, because Prof is speaking after me, I'm happy for him to correct my mistakes as my professor. Number one, foreign policy requires of you to have non-interference in another state party. There's a reason why I'm saying this, because of both the Raila issue, because of Nduta's issue, and also because of something that's coming up, the UN Secretary General elections that is coming up. So that we situate the Kenyan problem in a way that most Kenyans would understand. So number one, the principle of non-interference. And you saw the issues around the DRC Congo towards the Raila election, where Kenya was suspect of having engaged in the Congo in a way that was not proper. Yeah. You've seen the second principle of foreign policy is the principle of non-aggression. You know, so you've seen lately, Kenya has hosted the Sudan something, the SLF.
Yes.
Rapid force.
I'm just trying to break for you the ingredients of foreign policy. Then I land at this particular issue of Nduta. You know, so the third issue in terms of foreign policy is the issue of mutual benefit. That, you know, the reason why you're engaging with other colleague states is so that at least you benefit from each other in terms of how we engage. The other one is peaceful coexistence. And then lastly, of course, respect for sovereignty. So if you look at those five or so pillars of foreign policy, you discover that Kenya is doing very badly. And so the issue of Nduta, you know, the reason why foreign policy exists is because that's how the government wants to express itself to other colleagues. Now, Nduta's issue was only dealt with, in my view, the only time the PS Foreign Affairs spoke about it is later today, when Kenyans now were angry. It simply shows you that we have a government that is groping in the dark, a government that has lost its true north with regard to foreign policy. And if we proceed that way, there are many things that Kenya is going to lose on. Kenya is going to lose on because then you become suspect in the international forum. In the international arena, you become very suspect. I think Nduta's case dies as it is. You know, extraditing a criminal or someone who is alleged to have committed a crime becomes tricky, especially if at all Kenya, for example, doesn't have procedures to exchange criminals, for example. And number two, with regard to the crime of drug trafficking in Vietnam, it's a serious crime within the meaning of the Vietnamese government. But Kenya would have handled it better in terms of they should not have rushed in last minute. I mean, it's 24 hours to go. That's when every system is going. So I really think that the reason why we're behaving that way is because you're not understanding that Kenyans abroad, any Kenyan in diaspora, is a citizen of Kenya and is subject to the protection of the Kenyan Republic. If the Kenyan government understood it that way, that we have young Kenyans dying in UAE or in the Middle East, young men who've gone to work or young men who've been conned in the government or airlift program to become slaves, you know, we basically subjecting our young men and women to modern day slavery in a way that really compromises our foreign policy issues. But I really think that if we do not get our house in order, everything else that Kenya puts its hand on, the AU election was one that we should not have lost. I mean, losing to a small country like Djibouti, honestly, it's the most embarrassing thing that can ever happen to a country like Kenya, that, you know, Djibouti, who knows this country? And look, it's just because of our foreign policy approach. And I think now Professor can pick it from me. Thanks.
All right. Kiptui, I want to say something before we hear from Prof.
Yes, vis-a-vis Nduta, I think it's rather unfortunate. I don't want to get into the merits and the demerits of the government, or even Nduta herself, whether she's guilty or not. But I think when we are outside Kenya, we are a family. We should be more of a family than even how we are here. So I think we ought to have looked at this case, I agree with my senior here, in a more nuanced way. Then we come later now, we try to get Nduta home, then as Mheshimiwa says, she be charged. We try our best to get her outside the laws of Vietnam. Then we get her home. But I will also, I think as family, I think I'm really trying not to give my real opinion about this, but I think this is an assumption. If at all she's guilty, she's not yet been judged, I think this is tough love. I think we could be exporting some of our bad manners outside our borders.
All right.
Yeah. So I think we ought to have a conversation with ourselves.
Complex, they call it. Dicey, they call it. Complicated, the country calls it. And one would want to ask, why did the government take that kind of a delay of approach as to addressing this? And how critical is it for, you know, a country to have perhaps an embassy, ambassadors representing us in the various countries across the globe, such that they would handle some of these concerns before they get to, you know, now the country, for us to have our very own foreign policies or perhaps of foreign leaders taking up the matter. And what does it mean, you know, when we're trying to push Vietnam to take a different approach as to what is their policy? Because they say this is not unique to foreigners. This is basically what they would do even to the Vietnam people themselves.
I think as a country, we handled it badly.
Okay.
This case was known from the time she was arrested.
Okay.
And then even going through the motions of trial in Vietnam. The two countries could have discussed in private. And maybe in that case, Kenya would be asking for a favor, some consideration because of whatever it is. Because it has an obligation to look after its citizens wherever they are. Whether they are right or wrong, they are the citizens. And they did not do that. So waiting until 2 days or 3 days to say I'm calling some minister does not look very polished in the diplomatic circles, and could have done better, much better. Yes, there are temptations that could come. Sometimes people are not, if her story is correct, that she did not know what she was giving.
Well,
you know,
yeah.
which is
possible.
Yeah, it's very possible because it happens. You get all these people approaching you.
Just question them,
yeah. You know, and if you are not careful, you might find yourself carrying things you don't know.
Yeah.
And I think that's why they announce in the airport, they tell people, don't accept anything from anyone you don't know. You know, because it can be anything. It can be. So I think we handled it badly, and hope that in future we shall not make the same mistake, if there is a future, which we don't expect to have. So that is what you can say about the Nduta case. As to the other things, I think Mheshimiwa, my classmate, is quite in order. There's those blunders that we have made.
Right.
Before the vote in Addis, the president made a blunder. You know? So he's talking about something in Congo, and he says he talked to a Frenchman called Macron about Congo. And people say, what is this? You know, it does not make sense. He should have called his colleagues from Ramaphosa, or even Tshisekedi himself, or even, you know. But we are now that he's talked to Macron about something in Congo, makes people wonder what's going on. And the other day we hosted rebels, or people who are considered to be rebels in Sudan, so that they can form an alternative government. What message is that to Sudan? Yeah? So you see that somebody did not think clearly what's going on, or they did not think of the consequences of the decision that they make.
Right.
When they boomerang, that's when you start wondering. So now the Sudanese don't want to drink our tea and other things.
Okay.
But that's not, the main problem is on the policy making level.
All right.
When you have the wrong people making policy, especially people who don't want to consider the past. We have been told that history is not important, so don't know. And therefore, do some strange things. Then you end up making mistakes, which have no place in a country like Kenya that should be upfront there. So we have that problem.
All right, fair enough. Gentlemen, you know, this matter would have been accorded more time, but because then we are awaiting the developments of the same, I think we will articulate this more tomorrow night. I hope we will have, of course, gotten details from what is playing out in Vietnam and the numerous other cases that are playing out in the country. I must admit that it's been a great show and, of course, immense feedback coming from the people. Perhaps oh, well, I have lost, well, anyway, lots of it. We appreciate what it is that you have sent us this evening. And of course, special appreciation to the guests. That is last speaker, Professor Macharia Munene, who is the Professor International Relations, that is at USIU. And next to Professor Macharia Munene, Kosonei Kiptuya, member Kijani Kibichi, Party of Kenya, coming up, right? As well as Agustino Neto, co-leader, UGM party leader. Unless there is something you want to add, 30 seconds. I think it's at this very point that we must close.
First is just to thank you for hosting the UGM party again. And just to tell the young Kenyans that 2027 is a critical election. They have to organize themselves. It is for them to determine the 2027 elections.
Right.
The world is moving towards sustainability, and they must organize themselves into an ideology that can then espouse ideology. Karibuni Chama, UGM party. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you.
Thank you for hosting me, Linda. I've been looking forward to coming to your august studios.
Yes.
I'm ending on a sad note, a very sad note. We are losing many Kenyans on our roads.
Okay.
It's very unfortunate. It's very unfortunate. You ran a story about Salga. It's rather very unfortunate.
We have to be safe. We have to try our level best. Well said. 30 seconds, Paul.
Yeah, I think the government should give IDs to all the young people.
Interesting.
Because they are not getting IDs.
Yeah.
Which means that they cannot register to vote.
As voters.
And that is not a very good thing.
Okay, that is not so much of a good
But on top of that, just one final thing. Despite things being rough, people should not lose hope.
Okay.
Yeah.
We soldier on. And Lavu Oshumu says, sina la kusema, japo nawaombea Mungu awape nguvu na imani ya kusaidia Margaret Nduta aliyopo taabani nchini Vietnam. Hakika hatuna cha kuwalipa. And of course, we'll be looking forward to see what happens as to that developing story, to highlight it some more, even as we look at the country's foreign policy and basically the diplomatic approach to things. My name is Linda Alela. It was great having you. Once again, appreciating the gentleman on set and you back at home for the immense feedback. I look forward to see you again tomorrow as we continue sitting in for George Maringa and as we continue talking about matters that matter to us as a people. Appreciating the entire team that has made this broadcast a success. A special thanks to the sign language interpreter, Catherine Simaloi. I see you again tomorrow. Do have yourself a lovely night and a week ahead.